Hello YouTube, Big G back again with another video, and you would have previously seen in one of my pickups that I got a Commodore Amiga 500, but the power supply is a bit on the blink. So here it is over here, power supply. I'm busy taking it apart. Why? Because I actually want to replace the innards of this power supply over here with one of my old ATX PC power supplies. When I tested this power supply from the Amiga, it was missing the 5 volt. It wasn't supplying that to the machine, and doing a bit of browsing, a lot of guys are just changing and using old ATX power supplies and taking the 12 volt and 5 volt from here. So I thought, well, let me do the same. I want to get my Amiga up and running, so yeah, join me. So let's see how it goes. Okay, first step, taking it all apart. I want to try to save as much of it as possible in case I want to put it back again at a later stage. So let's just take out bits and pieces. There it is there, and let me unsolder. First thing is just do a quick little brief look here to see if I see that if there's anything that's... Nah, I'm rather just going to replace it. Okay. Okay, I had to grab a different power supply. The first ATX power supply I grabbed is actually dead. Absolutely stone dead. So I've grabbed another spare power supply. It's not as old as the last one. It comes out of one of my previous PCs. So plugged it in, and I'm just want to switch it on. Now what I've done here, if you have a look at the actual connector that goes through to the PC board, I've actually fooled it. It's actually switched on now. Why? I put a little jumper. If you have a look there, there's a little jumper that I've put, and I've shorted out those two pins. That then fools it into thinking that it's actually plugged into a PC board. And the wires that you use is the green one and the black one that's next to it. So green and black, or if you count from the right hand side back, it's 1, 2, 3, fourth one. So there it is there, and the black one shorted out. Now it believes that it's it's plugged into the PCB board, into your PC board. And just to check it now, so there's my multimeter, I've got it there. So I'm just going to measure now from, that's ground, that's black, and next to it is a red, so it should give me 12 volts. Red should give me 5 volts, and there's my positive 5 volts, you can see there. And if I measure to the yellow one, it should give me 12 volts. There's 12.5 volts. So I'm getting power now. So I fooled the power supply into thinking that it's plugged in, and I'll be able to now take my power from here and link it up to the Amiga. Okay, the other thing you need to look out for is that, as I said previously, black is ground, red is 5 volts, yellow is positive 12 volts, and then blue is your negative 12 volts. So I'm going to be taking the negative 12 volts from there. Okay, so I've taken the wires now from the power supply. Remember, as I said, blue being minus 12 volt, black ground, red 5 volt positive, yellow being the plus 12 volt. And then I took my Commodore connector, power supply PSU connector, and I had taken it loose earlier, and I've just gone and connected it likewise as well. So putting the 12 volt together, 5 volt together, ground, and the negative 12 volt. And then there's also a shield connection, which is not required, so that I can just snip off. It's not required. And now I've gone and soldered the connections up just to neaten them up a little bit, and now I'm going to wrap them in tape, and then it's time then to test the PSU before I plug it into my Amiga. Okay, one final test now before we hook up everything to make sure everything is working beforehand. You know, rather be sure than sorry later. So I just want to check to see, and I'm looking at the pin diagram, and I've switched the power supply on, so be careful not to short anything out. I'm going to hook this, attach that crocodile clip to the ground, and then on my multimeter I'm going to attach the other end. Just makes it that little bit easier. And let's attach that. Okay, so ground is attached, and now I can have a look to see if I'm getting the correct voltage readings. So this pin up top there should be the positive 12, so let me just, there we are. So positive 12 volt. The middle pin should be the negative 12 volt. I'm getting a negative 11 volt, 10.99, and this pin down here at the bottom should be the positive 5 volt. I'm getting a positive 5 volt. So only one I'm a little bit worried about is the negative 12 volt, because I'm only getting negative 11 volts. Yeah, minus 11. That should be fine. So at least I know that my pins are in the correct. Let me just switch this power supply off before I short anything out. There we are. So I switched the power supply off, and now I'm getting ready to hook up the Amiga and for the final test. Okay, I've got my Amiga 500. Now just to give it power, and old thumbs that I don't get sparks or something blows up, but let's hit the power, and we have power. Yes, what can you say? Look at that. It's obviously looking for some sort of disc. I've never used an Amiga before, but it's looking for something. Power's on. There's no disc in there, so I'm going to have to find the what is this, Workbench version 1.3 disc. But I'm super excited because I have a working Amiga 500. This is the one that I got from Fabio, and just to recap, there's the power supply, an old ATX power supply that I've rewired and reconnected to this Amiga 500 because the 5 volt wasn't working on the original power supply. And guess what? I now have a working Amiga. I just need to get my hands onto a boot disk, and I can start playing some of those games to see what all the fuss was about with the Amiga, because this is my first Amiga, so I've never played any Amiga games. I need to clean this desk up. It's starting to look rather messy. And yes, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, please, it's a piece of cake actually, having to rewire a ATX power supply to use on your Amiga. It's just a pity the older one didn't work. I've got the newer one, and if I get my hands on a smaller one than this, I'll actually build the smaller one into the original power supply case like I wanted to, but I won't be able to fit that in there. And as it is, it's working perfectly. So yeah, guys, cheers from me.